All right, welcome to the City of Sunbury Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. It is June 24th, 2024. It is 6:30 p.m. Would you please join me in a moment of silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor St. John,
Here.
Mr. Gokenhour,
Here.
Ms. Miller, absent, Mr. Grumney,
Here.
Ms. Crawford,
Here.
Mr. Stotterman.
That's
Absent.
4 and a quorum, correct?
Yes, that'll correct.
Good deal. All right, we are going to start this meeting with a public hearing. This is related to an amendment to the comprehensive plan. It's the Sunbury Parkway District Plan. And the anticipated process tonight is, well, first, we're going to send it to legal counsel to enter exhibits, swear anybody in from the public that wishes to speak, open it up to public comment, and then any questions from the commission, and then we'll close the public hearing. Mr. Whitney, floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good evening. My name is Vic Whitney. I'm the legal counsel to the commission here this evening. So as the mayor indicated, we have holding a public hearing on the amendment to the comprehensive plan. So if there is anybody here that thinks they may want to testify or offer any opinion as to whether this commission should recommend to council that it be adopted or not, I would ask you to rise right now. We'll have to swear you in because it is a public hearing. It is being recorded that we would need you to be sworn to do that. And it looks like there are no takers. So I guess at this point, I just ask any of the staff that's going to testify tonight to go ahead and please stand. And if you would raise your right hand, and do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God, and the penalty of perjury.
I do.
Okay, thank you. And then Mayor, just final item is I have a document here marked as Exhibit A. It's 3 pages, which constitutes the public hearing notice that was posted at the town hall here and also was published in the newspaper in the Delaware Gazette. So I've marked it as Exhibit A and moved to admit this into the record.
Great. The one other technical item I wanted to mention is just related to the stenographer. The court reporter is not here tonight. We did have one scheduled. We are recording this session and we will get this transcribed, correct?
Correct.
Fair. Yes. All right. Anything else to add?
Nothing for me.
We didn't have anybody from the public that was sworn in, but I do want to open it up for public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on or against or related to the Sunbury Parkway District Plan amendment to the comprehensive plan? Okay. What I think we are going to do is we are going to go ahead and close this public hearing. This is an item on the agenda for the commission to review. And if there are any comments or questions, we'll do that at that time. With that said, I will close the public hearing. All right. Next item on the agenda, commission review amendment to the comprehensive plan, Sunbury Parkway Master Plan. The anticipated process is the commission discussion and questions. We do have members from staff that are here tonight that can answer any of our questions. With that said, I'll open it up to the commission for any questions or comments on the plan.
I have, excuse me, I have a question in regard to utility impacts. On page 12, it under electricity and communication, the first paragraph says ODOT predicts that adjustment to these lines may be necessary in order to construct the parkway. I'm curious, and I understand that you may not have answers to these questions, but what does that mean for the area in the way of traffic and potential power outages? Oh,
So, no. So I'm not sure what, if your reference is these lines, did you say these lines?
well, yes, in the first paragraph it says overhead electricity and communication lines are present along Africa, 3Bs and K, South Galena and Domigan roads, and US 36 and
Yeah.
State Route 37.
So I guess the short answer would be this. We did ask the consultant to at least, the consultant that helped develop the plan for us to consider the utility implications associated with the Parkway extension. I think that's just their way of referencing that as a result of the construction, that overhead lines could be impacted by roadway improvements and the like. And just making sure that as we consider the plans, we're considerate of the fact that that would be something that could be impacted. Having said that, maybe one other point I will add is that we did with our most recent zoning update, we have tried to push utilities to be underground. I mean, that's not going to be true for a high power transmission line, but for other lower voltage uses, I mean, again, those might be the types of things that get impacted by the roadway and the development along the parkway.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Lots of comments and questions. And let's see, market analysis. I got a question. Who came up with the top needs and how did they come up with their top needs? I'm looking at Roman numeral 5 page, I guess it would be.
Yeah, so
Analysis.
so part of the scope of the plan involved the contractor engaging another outside consultant to basically do a market analysis associated with the area. So what they did is they looked at the Sunbury zip code, I believe, which is actually a little bit broader than the city of Sunbury as we know it today. And what they did is they did some market research, or they did the analysis of market data showing where there were gaps in uses. So that was done by an outside firm. I can't remember the Vista.
Site selection.
Yeah, Vista Site Selection was the contractor that did that work. So what they're identifying is basically pulling data from data sets showing where there would be gaps in services. In other words, there are people that are people are demanding healthcare coverage or healthcare services in a way that the market currently doesn't provide. So it indicates that that is a gap and that's a market opportunity, if you will. So that's kind of the whole way that it played itself out. The other thing that they did is then they looked at the market needs for the Sunbury zip code as well as Delaware County. And so they referenced both in the document.
To me, it seems like the analysis is disconnected from Sunbury for the fact that they say we have a top need for motor vehicle parts. And I can stand in one motor vehicle parking lot and hit the other two with a baseball. So it seems a little disconnected to me. Room number 6, next question, recommended land use. Neighborhood mixed uses, it includes high density residential. Which is, from what I see in the maps here, it's more toward the eastern side of the parkway, which is up next to Sunbury. I thought we were trying to keep high density more toward the highway.
And that's true. So could you just help me understand? You're referencing the neighborhood residential district?
The neighborhood mixed uses, yeah.
Neighborhood mixed use district.
It's the pink one there.
Yeah, so
It'd be the pink, yes.
yeah, right. Okay. And your question is, why is that closer to the historic portion of Sunbury versus out there farther closer to the interstate? Well, if you look at the definitions of, I think it's principal uses associated with these zoning classifications, there is greater density associated with commercial uses as you go closer to the interstate. So while this might be more density than exists in the traditional Sunbury area, it's not the most dense recommendations that are coming from the consultant. Those are more dense as you move out toward the gateway, mixed use, gateway, gateway, mixed use, gateway, commercial and industrial districts.
Okay. The preserved open space,
Mhm.
can you explain to me why it is so spread out and lineal?
Yeah, so what we were, in working with the consultant, one of the things they were trying to do is take into account the general topography of the area. And so basically it follows, in some cases, it's following a creek, it's following creeks. This is the little, what am I saying? Little Walnut. Yeah. Little Walnut. And it also then follows some of the existing utility easements that exist as well. And so that's why it has these, it extends sort of up in a narrow strip. It's some of that area, and I'll point to it if you want. I mean, some of this area is outside the kind of the city's boundaries. But I think it was important to show that, you know, it does connect to green space that's, again, just immediately to the north, runs to the northern end of the zoning property within the city. And again, it's following creeks or other types of easements. In addition to bigger green space areas that, again, the consultants thinks are probably not ideal for other types of uses as well. They are better served as open spaces, and we were trying to show that on the map.
In regards to the preserved open space on page 32 of the document, it says the preserved open space district is applied primarily in the transitional node around the Little Walnut Creek. Wetlands and soil conditions are not suitable for development in this area, but we're going to make it parkland. Is it going to be suitable for parkland? Because if you have wetlands, you astronomically raise the cost of developing that as a park.
Mhm. Well, just because it's open space doesn't mean it's going to be opened as an active recreational space. I mean, some of the green space will be active, but some of it may be not active. And so those areas like you're describing may not be that accessible to pedestrians. And so it just continues to show as open space, but not again, active open space.
So as Sunbury, we're doing to ourselves what developers do to us all the time, and we're just going to throw the wasted land to the parks. Okay.
Well, I don't think we're necessarily saying that that's parkland. I mean, I think we're saying that that's open space. Yeah, but it may not be dedicated public land for a park. It may be, but I mean, I don't know that that's not in the recommendation.
Okay. Page 2, roadway configuration.
Mhm.
Speaks about, where am I at? It speaks about having signalized intersections, but then it's also, you're going to allow, it just got mixed up. Apologize here. There we go. Okay. It says to the extent consistent with ODOT and Sunbury's plan for a limited access roadway, non-signalized minor access points to Sunbury Parkway may be allowed between signalized intersections. So there's going to be, we're going to allow right-ins and right-outs. We're not going to have like a secondary road.
Yeah, Alyssa, can you find the map that maybe shows just the one that showed the land uses?
It's an approved
up there.
ODOT access management plan where
Right.
it's very specific around signalized intersections. And then there's more or less ranges of area where things like right-ins, right-outs, or arc cuts or roundabouts can go.
Exactly.
But and I think what the plan is trying to say is, that's going to be development driven. There are not going to be stoplights all the way up and down, nor are there only going to be 2 or 3 stoplights on the entire parkway.
Yeah.
Like there have to be other ways to ingress and egress off of the parkway and into the developable area.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I was just thinking that this tries to show you in some ways a roadway network. It's not the roadway network, but it does start to show you that there may be some connections that are beyond the full access intersections that ODOT has spelled out for it. So as the mayor's indicated, yeah, there may be areas for right in, right out. There may be areas where there's another strategy for access control. And I think as you read it, it said may be considered or might be. So it's, again, it's not definitive. It'll depend upon the developments themselves. But I think at the end of the day, the larger goal is that this will be a limited access roadway. So there will be few full access intersections. And I think we've listed them in the plan as well, where they are. I think that's in the front section.
I didn't see anything in regards to that.
Okay. I'll find it for you. And
Thank you. Page 5, I got a comment about the households and families, the bottom paragraph, bottom sentence. The share of Sunbury's households that are senior living alone has decreased contrary to the trend in Delaware County and the state. I've said for years that we need better senior living
Mhm.
because all of our seniors are moving out of the city to seek living elsewhere because we don't have anything for them. This holds true.
Right. So your point there is that the data reflects that, in fact, there are fewer seniors today than there were before, but or seniors living in the city of Sunbury. But again, as you look at the proposed parkway plan, it does talk about a broader range of products, which could, in fact, maybe accommodate this, the older population.
The only thing I see in this document that mentions senior housing was on page 26, and the senior housing is actually out at the highway instead of multifamily, which is right on the edge of Old Town. You have any questions, Sean? No, Billy.
Oh, you go ahead, that's it, boy.
Did you look at page 26 on, under the transitional node?
Yeah.
Supported land use is senior housing.
Yeah. It's the only thing in the whole document that mentions anything about senior housing that I read.
That's on highway node and transitional node, which is the orange and the green, which is probably 70% of the plan. I'll just add into the open space and some of the area, like, can we pull up the exhibit on the land use again, where it shows the preserved open space, conservation area? And Joe's right, some of this is floodplain, some of that green, especially on the eastern side, is floodplain there. I know there were discussions about creating a blue way, I don't want to say exactly like Rapid 5, but there's a big focus on making transportation available in different ways and taking advantage of some of the natural features. So that's why you have that long north-south corridor. Some of the jagged lines through the property and on the north side, those are following existing easements, if I'm not mistaken. And I can't remember what type of easements, but there's going to be no development there. So I think the steering committee thought it was worthwhile calling that out. But it also doesn't encompass all open space. I mean, there are going to be open space features in this plan that are not labeled green now. They're labeled red, but will be adjacent to developed area.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a good point, Mayor. So adoption of this plan is just the staff request is to add it as an addendum to the city's existing comprehensive plan. But having said that, we do have to come back and develop zoning districts that reflect these proposed uses. That would come back in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission in addition to council. And in there, those types of things like green space, density, what have you, are all spelled out. So there's another opportunity, I think, to add a little bit more depth to this discussion of open space and other requirements.
I would also say that this district level plan is, I mean, very similar to a master plan. That's why we're looking to amend our master plan, and that this is just directionally where we're trying to go. It's once we start focusing in on, okay, what are we trying to really achieve with the Gateway Mixed Use District, to Daryl's point, where we're talking about setbacks, building heights, densities, allowable uses, you know, who it's to tailor to, what uses are prohibited. And there's still a lot of work to be done, but
Right.
I mean, from a visionary perspective, this is 18 months worth of work, taking landholder feedback, utility feedback, school partner feedback. The public, we had multiple public sessions that help guide this, and to turn it into, you know, a static map is very difficult. And when you're going from one zone to another, I mean, we're using natural borders and boundaries to draw them. There's just a lot of work to be done, and this takes a lot of time, but I feel really good about the work product and the amount of work that we still have left to do.
Why are we planning for so much high density, medium density versus more commercial, more industry? I mean, page 8 says employment and industry. Sunbury has a strong workforce. And then at the bottom line, it says Sunbury residents commute elsewhere for higher earning jobs. Why can't we provide them jobs here versus sending them somewhere else? Why are we making it even a bigger bedroom community than what it already currently is?
Yeah, and I don't have an answer for your second part of your question, but I think words like high density, medium density without numbers don't really mean anything. I mean, high density.
You're planning for it. You're setting us up for more high density, more medium density throughout this whole plan.
Yeah, Joe, I understand your perspective on this. What we heard from both the steering committee, from employers, specifically the healthcare sector, was saying, if you want to attract something large, like a large ambulatory center, you need to have a place that people can live nearby, walk to work, and you know, give them places to eat. I know you're hyper focused on the housing aspect of this, but it does include all the other uses that are going to be mixed in here. I mean, even if it says highway node, there is residential and there are commercial aspects to it. Now, it doesn't mean that we're going to put a factory there, but it does mean that, you know, we're going to have places of employment there.
Yeah, and that was what I would add. I mean, I think 4 of the 6, the top 6, I would say, well, no, 5 of the 8, 1, 2, 4, 6, 8. I mean, all have some commercial, have commercial or some other type of business generating use as an acceptable use in it. I think the only ones that basically are only residential are the neighborhood residential and residential. Actually, check neighborhood residential. That actually may have a commercial component to it as well. So I mean, I hear what you say. There are a lot of references to residential, but there are also a lot of references to commercial uses along there as well, and other catalytic employers. I think we would envision that this, as we've started out at the very beginning of this project, and we started out talking about that, you know, this is a generational opportunity for the city of Sunbury, you know, to diversify in many ways, you know, what our mix of uses, land uses are in the city. And so we think that the plan represents that, but and think at the end of the day that you know, the market analysis was an attempt to understand that as well, that by understanding where the commercial or other types of employment related needs are, hopefully that kind of accelerates the development along that stretch by providing land uses that are consistent with where those gaps are.
Page 27, land use district, and then it goes into residential uses.
Neighborhood
last
commercial.
paragraph,
Yep, neighborhood commercial.
top of page 27. Right hand side, for all land use districts, low density residential is less than 5 units per acre, medium density residential is between 5 and 20 units per acre, and high density residential is more than 20 units per acre. My question is, how does this compare to our current code? Or does it reflect our current code?
It does not reflect our.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
None of those zoning districts, except for maybe residential, exist. So it does not take into account our current zoning codes at all.
Are these numbers higher or lower than our current code?
There's not an apples to apples comparison, is what I would say. There's no code that we have that has density ranges and the other characteristics of what the proposed districts are. And let me ask you a question. Is it the nomenclature, like low, medium, high, or is it the numbers, or is it a math issue? Is it a prosperity issue? Is it an exclusionary issue? I just want to know what the issue is with housing. And I want to know,
I'm
like,
looking at the whole plan, Joe. It's nothing just about housing. My questions are about commercial and industry too.
but also the balance of, and I guess the criticism of housing in relationship to commercial and industrial. And so, for example, like density per acre, like I have this discussion all the time. You know, if you have 100 acres and you put 50 units on it, but you take 50 units and put those on 5 acres and you preserve the other 95. I mean, like the density number, you could have single family homes all the way up and down it, but then you have no open space. And you have no economic engine to pay for parks or open space or amenities. So, I mean, it's a balance. I just want to know what we're trying to solve for, because I think we looked at this for 18 months, and I know we're hyper focused on it now because we're looking to adopt. But I want to know what we're trying to solve for. If we're trying to make amendments to this before an approval, or if you're really just genuinely trying to understand, like for the steering committee and the public, we're
I
trying to
think I
decide.
started out with, I'm trying to understand it, yes.
Okay. And
This is the first I've seen it, even though you've been looking at it for 18 months.
Right.
So, yeah.
John, do you have anything you want to add? I mean, just to any of Joe's points, you were in a lot of those meetings.
Yeah, so, yeah, I was just gonna make some general comments, probably nothing that hasn't already been said, but, yeah, this has been a long process, a lot of consultants, a lot of market analysis, a lot of experts, a lot of smarter people, more, smarter people than me. And we did get public feedback a couple times. It's abstract, so I think it's hard to like visualize what this is gonna look like as an end product. I think just as important as this plan is on the back end is holding the builders and the projects accountable to the plan that we're developing. Just making, we've talked about this before, but just making sure that what we put in place is what we end up getting, and we don't allow for strain. But, I don't think we're ever going to make it something that everyone completely 100% agrees with, because everyone has their different thoughts and ideas of what it should be. Primarily, we want what's best for Sunbury and what's best for the residents. And what we've heard from residents, what we've heard from market analysis is in these nodes. Now, are there anything that could be moved or changed a little bit? Maybe, I don't know, but I think, when we first got that, as Joe, I think mentioned, it was nothing. It was just land going into Sunbury. What are we going to do with this? And we need some type of plan or control to make sure we don't get a bunch of storage buildings and, junkyards and things that are lining up along that road. So we want to put a plan in place to put some organization to it so the city has control. So, Joe, I think you have some good questions. I think it's great that you're dissecting this, because that's what you're supposed to do. And I think you have some good insight. Again, I don't think there's a perfect answer. I do know that people want to live in Sunbury. I do know that housing is difficult in Sunbury, and I think some of this will solve some of those problems, a different type. We've been told many times that we need a variety of housing. The single home on a half acre isn't going to cut it. So we've got to look for ways to increase industry, increase commercial, increase residential. I think this is a prime opportunity to do that along this whole stretch. In an organized fashion. And I think what's going to be really important is when we put the zoning together for these nodes, what does that look like? And that can help us define a little bit more what it is we want and don't want into those areas. So, again, I don't think there's going to be a perfect solution. I think Joe has some very legitimate points. But again, on the other side, I think Sunbury and the city itself, the residents have done a lot of work considering some of these things. And this is a plan to follow, again, with potential adjustments to be made in zoning to see what we can and can't do, but.
Yeah, and maybe just a little bit more on the public engagement part. So we did, so Mr. Gokenhour, while it may be the first time you're seeing it, again, I want to just note that, you know, we had stakeholder engagement early on. We had 2 opportunities for the public to weigh in on early versions of the plan. And we had a survey document that went out to the community that I think we had almost 500 people participate in terms of providing response, which actually turned out to be a really great response rate. So there really has been an attempt to get feedback from all of the interested parties associated with the parkway and develop a plan that we think, you know, balances all of those needs long term and is best for the city long term as well.
I just like to also add just commentary from me. I mean, change is scary. Change and when you're used to a smaller city and you see something like this come along, it is for lack of a better word, scary, intimidating. Which makes a plan even more important to have in place so you can see what's coming, so you can hold people accountable to what it is you've planned. You know, having been a resident here for almost all my life, it is, you know, when the Oasis was going to come, I thought I was going to have a heart attack. Thank goodness that Oasis flew away. But I do support and like this plan. I think the city has really put a lot of time and effort. We're not just having this, we're going in this with eyes wide open, making sure that we're crossing the T's and dotting I's to make sure that we don't end up on the short end of this development. And we're doing what's best. Again, I believe in the long term for our residents. And I understand we don't want to become some metropolis where we're just disorganized and we have stuff everywhere. My own wife tells me all the time that she doesn't want a town where it's like, it just looks like things were thrown together. And I think this is what avoids that. This is what makes sure that we have a planned strategic approach that makes sense. So.
Just a couple other things I'll mention on the plan. I think I really like the focus of the plan on walkable blocks off of the corridor. I love the fact that there are dual multi-use trails along the entire parkway from east to west. That exists nowhere for this long of a stretch, including a pedestrian bridge over Interstate 71 that has dual multi-use access trails. I really appreciated the steering committee's focus on things like regional detention, so you can maximize the utilization of land. You think like, you know, if you drive up Cherry Street right now, you know, Brymar, and I mean, you can see the dry detention basins and the wet detention basins. And it's why we have some of the issues with stormwater management that we do today, because it wasn't thought through holistically. Those are some of the things I'm really proud of about this plan that will not benefit any one of us in this office. Will be long gone, but it's going to make somebody else's lives a lot easier to be able to attract the type of development that the community wants. Joe, I apologize for trying to rebut all of your points. It is the classic example of I've been looking at this for too long. But you bring up good points. Crawford, any other comments or questions?
No, I think John was inside my head.
Dangerous place, John.
Yeah, I mean, I'd basically just be reiterating what he said. But I too am a little nervous about what's to come, but I appreciate the city's effort. I attended one of the open houses. I completed the survey. I appreciate being able to offer my input, share my opinion. And I would much rather be on this side of it and plan the city that we all want to live in, than just kind of go here and see what we get. So thank you for all your hard work.
Jared, do you have any other comments or questions? We'd like to defer the vote. I'm fine with deferring if so we can have a full board up here. We're down 2 members. We would need 4 to pass this tonight. Let's sit and just meditate for another 15 or 20 seconds. Joe, what do you think?
I think you know where my vote is.
All right. We're going to defer until our next meeting in July. Okay, so we're going to table this.
I don't think you need to table it, just
Still,
let it sit in the ether. We'll bring it back next meeting.
it's good deal. Thank you for the dialogue. Thank you, staff. All right, we are on to the commission review. Hitachi Astemo, additional to industrial building anticipated process is the applicant presentation. Welcome back.
Good afternoon. My name is Jim Wavy. I'm the site lead for the Sunbury site. We're going to do a two-part presentation here. I'll go over a high overview of the facility and what it does, and then John Carl will step up here and present the details. And then Sandra's here to support any detailed questions and answers that may come up. So again, this is just the cover page. We'll move on to page 2. So for those of you that don't know, we are one of a very small group of Hitachi Astemo. There are a number of facilities. We're broken into 5 regions in the world. We are part of the American region, which is the American region is made up of Canada all the way through South America. So Canada, United States, Mexico, and then South America. As you can see here, if you look in the center of the page, again, represented by 4 countries, we have 17 entities and 24 sites and about 14,000 employees. So we're just a small portion of the Hitachi Astemo American region. If you look on the left side of the page here, you can see our business units. We're primarily automotive. You can see 90%. And then you can see our sales in the middle, which is about $4.5 billion. And again, this is the AM region. Our customers down in the lower left-hand corner, you can see the Honda is 45% of our business. Ford, Nissan, GM take up the spots 2, 3, and 4. Moving along. Am I going too slow? Okay. So this is kind of the footprint. You can see the aerial view in the upper left-hand corner. You can see some of the details down below. We just talked earlier. We're coming very close to our 40th anniversary in 2026. We'll be here for 40 years. You can see all the different details there. On the right side of the page, you can see our history. Again, in 1981, we opened up an operation in California. So we really don't apply that to this application, but 1986 is when we established our facility. We have 2 business units within our operation, one of them being chassis suspension, which is suspension in the automotive industry. And then we also have a business unit on motorcycle side, which is our motorcycle suspension, which as you look across the different components we make there, we make parts for motorcycles, we make parts for side-by-sides, and then we also make parts for ATVs. Next page. Here's a pretty good overview of our demographics. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see our full-time associates versus our temporary associates. Average years of service, we're very proud. We have a very 10-year team here, almost 18 years of service on average, and our non-management is about 13.5. Then you look at the pie chart on the right side of the page. Again, our direct FTE stands for full-time employees. We're at 299. We've got our indirect full-time employees is at 167. We do have 13 staff from Japan that are called expats. They do 5-year tenures here at the facility, and then they rotate out, and those are usually in technical positions, more in our R&D division. And then we have some temps, like I mentioned before, we have direct temps of 22. Next page. So our commitments, this is very important to us, especially in this environment. So our top commitments are commitment to safety. We use a lot of acronyms in our world. So we've got a SAFE acronym, we've got an SQCD for our commitment to quality, our environmental commitments to preserve the environment, and also to our community. You can see some of the activities that we pursue and work with in this area, then of course also in all of Delaware County. Next page. Like I said, our single biggest commitment is to our employees. We realize that our employees are our number one asset in our operation. We've opened up a Sunbury Wellness Center, which is for our associates and their immediate families. This is right across the street, right across the street from 36th there off of Kittner, around the corner there. You can see the services that we provide for our associates. Retention is very important in our world. Finding suitable people and keeping them working or keeping them employed at our facility, retention is very important to us. So the fact that we have this commitment to our employees is very critical to us. So this is a very important part of our business. And it also is probably our single biggest retention opportunity with our employees. Just some of the certifications. These are typically in the manufacturing industry. We have our ISO 9001 certification, which is more or less a quality certification. And then we also have 14001 certification, which ties into the environmental. And both of those certifications have been here since pretty much since the turn of the century. And then just looking at our sales, as we look at it, you can see 72%, as I mentioned before, we're predominantly automotive, which is the CSSU, which stands for chassis suspension, and then 28% is motorcycle. And then just breaking it down for the customers in our world here at Sunbury, you can see that 65% of our business is with Honda on the automotive side. Our second biggest customer is Harley Davidson. We're their sole supplier for suspension for all their motorcycles. We also have some Subaru, which is also in the automotive sector, and then Honda Two Wheel and BRP, which is in the motorcycle business unit. Just looking details, again, this is breaking it down a little bit deeper on the chassis suspension side only. You can see the picture there on the right, which kind of shows where the parts go on the vehicle. And then the left just has a pie chart of the separation between the Honda business that we have and then the Subaru business that we have. And then on the motorcycle side, you can see we have three main customers, Harley being clearly our biggest customer, Honda being our second, and BRP being our third. But the three models that we provide to front forks and rear cushions for motorcycle. We make ATV cushions for front and rear for the handlebar ATV units. And then for the side-by-side, we make piggyback cushions for both the front and the rear. And with that, as a high-level overview, I'll turn it over to John Carl.
So good evening. Again, my name is John Carl. I'm the General Manager of Production Engineering and Maintenance at the Sunbury plant. I've been there about 16 years. Last month, we had shared in the informal hearing this strategy of expansion to the northwest corner of the plant, 42,500 square foot expansion. So you can see the image on the left as the plant resides today, and then the proposal shown on the right with that 42,500 square foot area developed. So you can see the schedule below. We had working through this footprint strategy of reorganization of our plant strategy, and that's been an ongoing process. So based on the addition of interest of OEMs within the automotive industry, wishing to source parts from the Sunbury plant, that has forecasted a growth in production capacity and volume from 18,000 pieces per day to 26,000 pieces per day. So that forecasted growth has challenged us to make sure that we are utilizing the existing space within the plant very efficiently, which we've done over the years. So there's no opportunity beyond expansion at that point. So we went through a very tedious deliberation process as to if we were to expand, where do we expand and what do we move and how do we scale the operations. So that brought us to the proposed 42,500 square foot in that northwest corner. So just to reiterate, that's being driven by the interest and specifically the moving some Toyota product from our Berea, Kentucky site up to Sunbury. In addition, some Ford Motor Company business that's on the books to come in the future. So you can see we're proposing to start the site preparation. We had planned on June. That's now looking more so like July, starting that site preparation. And we're working towards a planned occupancy in December. Next slide there. So you can see the aerial view of the site in Sunbury. To explain this a bit. So as we're moving down West Cherry Street, you'll pass the main entrance of the plant. Beyond that, on 36, 37, you'll come across Kittner Parkway. If you were to make a right onto Kittner Parkway, there's currently four different entrances as you go down Kittner Parkway. The first is the associate entrance. The second is an idled trucking entrance. The third is our main shipping entrance. And then the fourth is a service entrance for services and MRO delivery. So the planned expansion area shown in the blue, we would access through that fourth entry point. And we would have two docks that would deliver our raw material into that northwest corner of the plant. So we would utilize that existing driveway on the Kittner Parkway for some semi-truck traffic. The orange area shown would be turnaround space and delivery of that material. We then also recognized need for accessibility in the case of an emergency. So we've identified a gravel lane and a wall-mounted hydrant on that north side of the plant. So you can see basically what our strategy is for that space is a displaced MRO, some of our processing equipment, and then expanded space to support the new customers. Next slide. So we've continued to work with city engineering on the details of the plan. So we've established a comprehensive packet of engineering documents, one of which is shown here. So we've recognized all of the water retention, basically elevations, and site details defining the proposal. Additionally, we've included elevation views. This is from the west side of the building. So the details are shown. You can see the two docks, the proposed docks there in that northwest corner. So in closing, again, we were here last month for the informal meeting. The Sunbury plant is very excited, for the growth and the continued interest in the Sunbury site. We just, are looking for the city support in that endeavor. Are there any questions?
Any questions at this point? Any comments from staff?
No, yeah. So for the staff report, I know Dan's been talking with you guys and working through civil. So that was one of my notes. It's just they've been communicative and working with us every step of the way here. I didn't have too much to note aside from that. The only thing I did have to bring up was just looking at parking. Based on our metrics, we do hit everything, but we do have a section in our zoning code that goes over factoring in what motor vehicles are used in business or based on the premises. So I figured I'd just bring that to your guys' attention because I know we've talked about parking and needs before. So if there was a question to ask, I'd say it would be about how many vehicles are either based on the premises or are constantly moving in, and can that accommodate this new addition? Is that accommodated in that?
Let me ask it in a different way. Just, do you have any concerns with the amount of parking that you have?
No.
Okay.
So basically, from a parking perspective, we have more than enough parking now, and the job generation that we foresee here, we have capacity within the existing parking.
And your situation's not unique, but I mean, you run 3 shifts. Our parking code is static. I mean, it's relative. In my opinion, I think we push too much parking, and you end up with these vacant parking lots the majority of the time. I've seen yours, it looks healthy.
Yeah.
and, but not crowded. Right. So that's kind of ideal. Any other questions related to parking? All right, any other comments? That's fine. All right, any, concerns moving forward?
Nope, motion to approve.
Got a motion by Mr. Gokenhour to approve. Second by Mr. Grumney. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Gokenhour,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mayor St. John.
Yes.
Mayor, real quick, sorry to interrupt you. Can you make your motion, or whoever made the motion, I'm sorry, conditioned upon final engineering approval?
Like to amend your motion?
So be
Apologies.
We've got a amendment to the motion and a second by Mr. Grumney. Let's go. No discussion on this one. Roll call only.
Mr. Gokenhour,
yes.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mayor St. John.
Yes.
Ms. Coffin.
Yes.
4 yeas, motion approved.
All right. Good deal. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Take care. All right, we are on to informal presentation, Hale Evans Properties Introduction. Anticipated process is the applicant presentation. We have Mr. Hireman here tonight. Good evening. How you guys doing? Doing well. How are you? Good. Might need to get an extension on the mic stand for you.
Yeah,
That does detach if you want to
I just like me, I guess, maybe.
do a little karaoke.
I'm just glad I'm not here to, rezone anything residential or medium high density right now.
Pulling up your presentation right now. All right. Floor is yours, sir.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys, for your time tonight. And some of you for your time over the, previous months as we've kind of gotten to this point. I'm Jeff Ironman, the purchaser of the Hale and Evans properties. And tonight is the first step, I think, of hopefully rezoning this property to limited industrial district. You can see the general location here is south of Vans Valley Road, and in between Trenton and Miller Paul Road there. Our goal is, to rezone to the limited industrial district that encompasses some, really attractive end uses. And, you guys, I think, have done a really good job at, with the new code and kind of, allowing us to rezone and just operate within the framework. I think, which is really important here. There's not a lengthy discussion or process of variances and things. It's all included in there. And so, like I said, this is the first step. We plan to submit our formal rezoning application and be back here for the July meeting to hopefully, secure your recommendation and approval to move forward. So if you have any questions, let me know. But yeah, I threw together kind of a map here and then just another general location map to show some previous, annexations and our contiguity to that.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Hireman? Where are we on the annexation process? Next council meeting? Okay.
Yeah, right.
Okay, that'll be the
On July 3rd.
Okay.
Which I didn't schedule the day before the 4th, so, don't take that out of me, but yeah.
Good deal. All right, so limited industrial district, this is the zoning district that we created last year. It's a conventional zoning district. Most notably, it's not going to have as many details as a planned district. And there are several reviews throughout the process to refine it, but getting it annexed and zoned are two big steps in the process to allow Mr. Hireman to really start marketing it and adding jobs and adding a diverse tax base because we do have a lot of residential, but this really helps offset that, and that's a goal of the city, is to help diversify our tax base. Any questions or comments?
Where is this in relation to the land we just annexed?
That's the part that's to the north, that orangish peachish color. So Vassal is hazy up towards the north, it's 36, 37, and then on the north end of the red line is Vans Valley Road. Any comments, questions? Sure, Ironman, thank you for coming in tonight.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we'll see you next meeting, right?
Yep.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. All right, we are on to informal presentation, 801 West Cherry Street rezoning conditional use. And I'd like to invite the applicant up to the podium to introduce yourself and your project.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and Council, right? That's spelled differently. My name is Mike Jarvis, my realtor Doug Smith. We're good friends. We're here to talk about 801 West Cherry Street, building that you're fairly familiar with. I don't know if Allison, if you have anything we could put up on the screen that would help the committee to review the site. Again, this is informal. We have presented a rezoning application and a conditional use application for the building because we felt like it fell into a tiny little gap. We wanted to clarify that. The building for 26 years, it was constructed in 1998. It was part of Oberfield's entire industrial complex. It was their office complex or office unit attached to the industrial complex. So it has been and continues to be an office building. But when we started to solicit tenants that would come to this area and do further development, increase the usage of the building, we recognized through Allison and Alex, through discussions and with Randy as well, that we might miss the gap there and not be classified as a C2 office. So that's what we're requesting, is going from industrial I to C2 office. Again, for its 26-year history, it has been an office building. It will continue to be an office building for office and medical office usages.
Excellent.
Anything to add?
No, I think you covered it well, thanks.
And I apologize, I will not be able to make it to the July 22nd meeting, so Doug Smith will represent us in my absence.
Thank you. I just had a technical question. I think this is for staff. So we have rezoning and conditional use on here. Typically, it's an either or. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So they are looking for, they have an interested tenant right now, and they have a certain deadline they want to hit before they can move in. Assuming the rezoning process goes as quickly as it can, that would be after the date they'd want to move in.
Okay.
So what the applicant's looking for is a conditional use to allow them to move in earlier, going on to a full rezoning later. So the tenant can move in as of the approval of conditional use. And then once the property is rezoned, those kind of tenants can operate in there under the proper zoning.
Can I ask you a question real quick, just in terms of sequencing these out? Are we talking about at the next meeting, they're requesting a conditional use?
And rezone.
But a rezoning is like a public hearing and like 3-month process minimum, right?
Yes. So that's why we're starting it now. So it can be done by
I'm going to ask it in another way. Are there going to be 2 items on the agenda next meeting related to this single project?
Yes.
Okay.
A rezoning and a conditional use.
But the conditional use is going to come first, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think either way, it would work, wouldn't it?
I don't know.
Point taken, we'll make sure it's on the agenda first.
I wasn't on the debate team, but let's try. All right, good deal. I think I've got it.
Okay, great.
So you've got an interesting client, you want to like meet the spirit of the code and so that you can market it to whoever wants to move in there.
We probably could proceed without it, but we thought we would make sure that we're really within the confines. Again, our plan doesn't vary from the master plan. It's contiguous with the master plan, so we don't see any conflicts there. We have provided all the data for our adjacent tenants, adjacent property owners and any property owner within 200 feet to send out notice for the public hearing so they could have a voice. Any questions for us while we're here tonight?
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
See you next month.
Yep.
All right, last project on the agenda here, informal presentation, sure signs, new structure and industrial, anticipated process, the applicant presentation. Welcome back. It's been a few years. Glad you're back. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, I'm Scott Fodor. I own Sure Signs, which is, you look out the window just right up on the hill over there. Address is 142 East Granville. We have recently purchased the property behind us, where the Great Midwest Yacht Company was and still is. He's tapering out and not using the building as much, but, my proposal is to tear down our existing building, which is, I'm not sure the age, 50 to 75-year-old whole structure. Not a whole lot of space. And the drawing shows the biggest building that will fit there, with the trail easement. The yellow line along here is what's been designated for the trail when that happens. So basically, we could take that building down, build a 10,400 square feet building, and then my engineers showed, according to what current code is, the amount of parking spaces required. So if we had to meet that number of parking spaces for that size of building, there's adequate place for that.
There are ways to do less parking. And
I understand that. We ran it, or we proposed that last time, when we were going to build another structure up there that,
yeah,
because like, we don't use hardly any parking.
right, exactly. And this is like a perfect example of that. That seems like excessive amount of parking.
Yeah, but you know, our goal for the building is to lease it out to new businesses. Our building that we had proposed several years ago, we were going to occupy half of it and then lease out 4 1,500 square foot bays. When I purchased this property, there's an existing building in the back that's 4,200 square feet. I thought that was a huge building, and one guy wanted the whole thing. You know, so our plan is to build this, possibly divide it up 1 to 4 tenants, possibly. Just not sure. You know, one guy may come in there, like all of that parking space, and want the whole building. You know, so, but then it also tends to, you know, where we could divide it in 2 or into thirds or quarter, just depending. Because I know there's no, well, I won't say no, but there's a few places for small contractors,
Right.
of the sort. You know, a lot of them work out as storage units and this, that, and the other. So
We get questions for this type of use like all the time. I know Daryl does. You know, where is there a spot that has, 3,000 square feet of something that has plumbing? You know what I mean? And there's there's nowhere.
Right. And that was my goal years ago, was to put that up and have that. And then it's, basically the reason I canceled the project years ago was, if you look and see, there's a water line that runs basically catty corner through the property. At the time that the easement was granted, it was Village of Sunbury and Ellis that did that. And I questioned why they wouldn't have put it in the setback, so that was one of the reasons we canceled the project years ago. It was going to be at minimum 40 grand to move that water line. So that was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. It's like, yeah, let's hold off on that. And then that's when I started negotiating, asking Mr. Labor, who owns the property behind me. He was in his early 70s at the time. It's like, hey, what are your plans? And so after 4 or 5 years, we came to an agreement. I purchased that property, and he came with it. So he'll operate in there until he can't. So we had that agreement, and there's plenty of room in that rear building that we're able to move back into that building with minimal improvements that we need done to that building, because he's been working at it with similar, my architect said you guys are doing similar work, so there's not a whole lot to do to get us back in there. And so that's I do know that I'd have to apply for a variance because the building's only in the 60-some range, and I think code calls for it to be 100 foot off of the right of way. So hopefully that won't be an issue. My building's probably one of the furthest off of the road if you look at the other existing properties that are, close to me. So, and with the water line being where it is, we really can't move it back, to accommodate that, without getting a variance for the setback. So
Okay.
Variance for the setback, is that for the front setback or side setback?
From the front.
Front.
Yeah, for the front.
I have a question maybe for staff. Have we taken a deep dive look into this, just how the East Granville Street widening? 60 feet, gonna cut it, make it difficult?
We have not looked at that yet, but that will be something we'll definitely have to look at before we,
Okay.
go for that variance.
Probably worth our while just to double check. I know Scott mentioned it, Ohio to Erie Trail easement, and I mean, it looks on paper to be there, but just double check that.
Yeah, the other thing I would add is that we did talk to the applicant, he's aware we've got an interest on 37 that may impact the front, the front of the property. And so, yeah, we've got more detail to do. He's aware that the city's plans to widen the road.
Okay.
And Item construction was, going to be a metal steel type building with, probably split face block the first 3 or 4 feet up to make it look a little nicer than what's there now. So.
Good deal. Any comments or questions? We appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you back hopefully next month.
Yep, for the variance.
Yep.
Yep.
Good deal. Thank you very much, sir. All right, we're on to the visitors section. Are there any visitors that would like to speak with the Planning and Zoning Commission? All right, we've got, I'm gonna make a motion to approve the minutes from May 24th. Second by Mr. Grumney. Discussion. Roll call.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Ms. Crawford,
Yes.
Mr. Gokenhour.
Yeah.
4 yeas, motion approved.
We are out of the zoning report. Alex?
Yeah. Gotcha. So zoning report for May, I'll try to keep it brief for everyone. We had 27 new zoning certificates, 22 of which were for new builds. So almost our high for the year so far, absolutely destroying last year. Pardon the language, man. So 22 over 11 from last year puts us at a total of 97 so far for the year. So our trajectory is going higher than we were last year at this point. Last year, July was our biggest month, so that'll kind of be our real hurdle to get over. But I still think just based on what we're averaging per month, we'll be at least on pace, if not exceed last year's numbers total. We did have one violation sent for an RV that has since been corrected. And then we issued 6 occupancy permits and 6 other permits, all of which were fences. Anyone have any questions for zoning?
Can I ask about the DRK apartments? I know they're kind of completing their first phase. How would they be represented on this new construction historical trend? Is it like all the units are going to show up at once?
So you're talking for the apartments that are already,
Yes.
that was based on their buildings, and that's actually our 35 from last year. So they got their zoning certificates last year in July.
Gotcha.
So all of the buildings individually were given a zoning certificate.
Gotcha. So it's not individual units.
No.
So this isn't really, I get what you're saying now. There's, we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Thank you, Alex. There. All right. All right, discussion of new business, Mr. Gokenhour?
No.
Mr. Grumney? Mr. Crawford? All right, next meeting, July 22nd, 2024. And I'll make a motion to adjourn. Second by Mr. Grumney. Discussion? Roll call.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mr. Gokenhour,
Yes.
Ms. Crawford.